Hi Tarot friends, this is Kathy from Mystic Shield Tarot here with a new reading for you. Today I thought it would be really interesting to ask the question, why is this person in my life? Because I think we probably all have someone in our lives that maybe drives us a little crazy, maybe we get really hooked by them, or maybe we just don't understand why they're in our lives. So let's see if the tarot has some insight for us today, because a lot of times the people that drive us nuts are there to teach us something about ourselves, or something along those lines. So let's go ahead and pick our piles. You can choose whichever pile you feel drawn to. You can put your hand or finger over the screen and see if one feels different than another. That's one of my favorite ways of doing it. Or you can also choose according to the crystals and rocks. So this one is a lovely citrine. This is Snowflake Obsidian, which is very pretty, but I don't know if the lighting is doing it justice today. And then this also very lovely amethyst. So see what you feel drawn to, and then we'll see you at your pile. Thanks. Hi, pile number one. You chose the first card and this citrine. So let's see what we have for your cards today. And again, this reading is going to be about figuring out why a person is in your life, why a particular person is part of your life. Oh, and we already have some cards that just couldn't wait to get involved in the reading. So let's get those right out on the table here. All right, we'll see what we think about setup in a minute. All right, and then let's see what other cards want to come and talk to us today. Using the Halloween Tarot, because it's right around Halloween time if you're watching this as I'm, after I just made it. Of course, if you aren't, it still applies. It's an evergreen reading, so there is no wrong time. Ooh, I think it's this one. Okay. All right. And then two more. All right, let's see what we have here. Okay, so now that we're a little bit more organized, let's see what we have for your cards. So for your power animal, you have the bear will tie you to your origin. Very interesting card to come up when we're talking about relationships like this. You have conditioning, which is a major arcana card. You have experiencing, which is the 3 of fire. And you have suppression, with the 10 of fire. And the fire is also the same thing as wands. Then we have the world. The hermit. The lovers. So many. So you've got 4 major arcana cards so far. That's a lot. Then we have the 9 of bats. The Queen of pumpkins. The 8 of bats. And lastly, we have the 8 of pentacles. And the Ace of Swords. All right, so let's see what's going on here. With the bear will tie you to your origin, I feel like possibly this is about a family member or someone who is tied to your origin. So there's a sense of obligation or duty possibly when it comes to this person. Furthering that idea, we have the conditioning card here, which is very often about how we are molded through reward and punishment, how our behavior is created through this kind of system of reward and punishment. And that starts at a very, very young age. So again, we could be talking about a parent here or a family member, but somebody that has something to do with when you were younger, with your past and the way that you kind of have been shaped by this relationship. So it's interesting because in this card, you'll see that despite whatever conditioning might have happened, this is still, a lion wearing a sheep. So there is this interesting element where I don't think if this person tried to, affect your behavior or change you in some kind of fundamental way, they were not successful. And that I don't think, I'm going to hold on to that thought. We'll hold on to that thought. So with these two cards, I'm already getting a very strong sense that this is an older relationship for you. And if that doesn't resonate, it could be, I don't know, you could both have very similar baggage from the past that you're bringing together. If you believe in past lives, that could be an element in this. So just keep those things in mind as we go. And let's see what else. So I'm just looking. I feel like there's a decision here with the Lover's card and then the Ace of Swords. But let's see. So I feel like this relationship being taken, like these first two cards up, like sometimes I could say it's not a big deal, or it's, that you're putting a lot of weight on it, but I don't believe that's the message here. I think that this is the relationship has had a major impact on you, and that you kind of, your decisions, the way you are in the world is informed in some ways by this relationship. And I see you kind of vacillating between, trying to make the best of it with this experiencing card, letting yourself dream and connect with the world around you, but it's private. It's like the hermit. There's this element, there's this rich inner world, and perhaps a connection with nature that is very much a part of you, because you've had to suppress yourself so much. And I think that is, this person was responsible, at least in part, for bringing about this suppression of the self, this hiding, so that what you had to do in order to find happiness, in order to be a free spirit or an individual, the wild lion that you are, you had to find other ways to express that part of yourself. And it actually created this real strong inner relationship to yourself, and possibly to spirituality. So that could certainly be part of the reason this person has been in your life, is so significant in your life. And, there are some people who believe that we choose our parents before we were born. We choose our significant relationships and the people we'll meet, and that will affect us. So it could be that this person, that their role has been to cause you to kind of go underground and develop in this very powerful, very focused way, instead of kind of putting your energy all over the place. I feel like it's a very focused, very intimate energy that you've developed. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So we have, and again, that all the major arcana cards really speak to the significance of this relationship. It seems like there is this idea of newness that I'm getting, and the idea of something coming to an end, or Yeah. So I do get the sense that while this relationship, I don't think you can walk away from it, you can know that you, whatever this was about, is complete, I think, with the World card. I think that, if this person's purpose was to bring about this, this Hermit card, this amazing internal growth, they have completed that. So that part of their role in your life is done with this World card that you have. And I think you know that. And I think that's part of I don't know. I think it's a really tricky situation. I think there's a lot of pressure here with the suppression that kind of just speaks to it immensely. And it's interesting if you think about the pressure building up, and then we come to the Hermit card where it's like this, like the steam coming out of a train whistle. This is so then in my mind, so sometimes when I'm reading the tarot, I can sense movement or get a visual. And I absolutely, when I made that sound of the train whistle, this just turned into a train for me of just getting away. Interestingly, though, the getting away would go in the direction of the bear, which I'm not sure about. This pressure. So are you wondering about confronting this person? Is that what it is? Has it finally gotten to the point where you can't take it anymore and you just want to charge in? And that kind of feeling carries into the Lovers as well, where if we're following this intuitive storyline that's kind of come into my mind today, is you would be the vampire in the situation, but I don't think it's like you're an energy vampire. So I just want to make sure you know that we'll talk about what that vampire part might be about in a minute, but you would be the vampire coming in and kind of intruding on this person's life. So there is this sense of, maybe coming in and shaking things up a little bit, the feeling of the vampire. And the thing about the vampire for you is, I think, as I mentioned, you have developed this great strength and this great focus. You've developed this very rich inner world. And I think that is similar to the vampire, where the vampires tend to be loners and they tend to be very, very powerful and focused. And they also are kind of master shapeshifters for some. They can put a glamour on people. And I think with this conditioning card, there could be an element where you are able to kind of appear like everything is okay. So with the vampire there, I think is a symbol of that. And it's also that this eternal youth, this kind of youth that you have, this youthful energy. And so and this person is very comfortable, and they have a very strong private life. I feel like this reminds me a lot of a reading I did a couple of weeks ago. So it's hard because this person, as much as they had rules for you and conditioned you or whatever it is, as much as they influenced your life, it's very hard for you to have an influence on their life. They are very closed off emotionally. And so this impulse to kind of break that shell, not only to break it for yourself, but for them, is very interesting. This could be turning into a why am I in that person's life reading, because we have both. We have this, and let's see about this person a little bit more. So back to this part of the reading. So that things are completed. You've gotten all that you need from the relationship, I think, but breaking it off and leaving, or the implications of that, though in your gut or in your heart, this is the case, in your mind, it's very hard to accept that. And it may even be very hard to accept the extent of difficulty this person has brought into your life. And it could be that you are only just now, for some of you, realizing that you're not the sheep, that you have been kind of putting a glamour on people to seem like you fit in, and even possibly glamoring yourself. And you're starting to realize this other part of you is emerging. And in the case of the vampire, right, it's that they need blood thing, right? And it's this shame about that. It's such an interesting reading. But there's this shame, you know, with the characters that we love in movies and stuff. A lot of times they don't want to do it. They're afraid of this impulse in them. They know it's wrong, you know. And I'm not saying that this is wrong. In the world of the vampire, you know, if you need to survive on blood for them, that's just a fact. You know what I mean? And there can be judgments placed on that, but it's just a fact. And for you, it is just a fact that you are suppressing so much of yourself and pushing yourself in so much. And you need freedom, and that's a fact. And you're a lion, not a sheep, and that's a fact. And so it's not anything to be ashamed of, where I think you might feel that way. And you might feel ashamed that you feel like, all right, I'm ready to move on. And so it's keeping you up at night, you know, the classic Nine of Swords scenario. At the same time, even at night, I feel like with the moon over here and the bats, it's like even this struggle for power in your mind over, you know, what's the right thing to do? Do I follow my heart, or do I listen to this person who ties me to my origin? You know, do I keep playing the game that I've been playing all this time, maybe not even knowing it, where I'm just working, using all of my energy to fit in. And the only time I can recharge my batteries is when I'm alone, you know? So this kind of struggle, I think, is happening here, which also brings in this element of a decision in the Lover's card that I saw earlier in the reading. And the thing I'm wondering is if this you kind of ready to go for this person isn't just like shaking things up, but it's actually just saying like, look, this has to change. I have to go, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like just revealing something to them. So the Queen of Pumpkins, it's there's just this, there's this vibe from this person that they don't know what's happening, that they don't recognize this in you, that you are feeling so tortured. And chances are, even if you like were upset around them, they wouldn't even notice. Like you could be struggling a lot and they would just be like, so what's going on with this? You know what I mean? Like very like not acknowledging it. You don't even know if they see it or not. You know what I mean? And it could be though, sometimes they get mad and they're like, you know, like kind of cut you off and treat you like you're being too emotional or needy and things like that. It's okay to have wants and needs, you know, and I think you're at a point in your life where you've taken what you can and now it's time to move on. So let's see. So they have this, they just are so like closed off, but in this real like way that it's like everything is so pleasant. You know, it's this weird way that some people have of, you know, focusing on the pleasures of life, and that if you aren't able to do that, it's foolish or something, you know, like it's interesting because I think that they largely rest on the surface of things, and you, because of that, in direct response to that, go deep. And they think that's just foolishness. You know what I mean? They treat it like that is the surface part, that your emotions are too surface or you're being nonsense. But really, you want to talk about surface, I mean, and nonsense, right? This is kind of it right here. I hope, whatever, I'm not going to apologize for saying what I see. So for the Eight of Bats, we have this feeling of, it's funny, like this top row is like you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. But if you look, it's like, this is the person, this is their influence on you. You've had to go but it's like your influence, like of your inner self. So you've had to go very deep and find love within yourself and find strength within yourself. You now know, like in your heart, that it's time to go. And you re-energize, you enjoy life when you're by yourself. It feels safer to express yourself and to just be who you are, and then and also in that part of you, you're like, what do I do? You really want to confront this person. You really want to move on. And part of that is telling this person that you're moving on. Maybe not everything, you know what I mean? Maybe it doesn't have to be everything, though I think there is, because of the steam buildup, there is this kind of push towards that, at least in your mind, or, for you personally, it feels like, I just want to tell them everything, and that's the vibe here, where it's like, I'm a vampire, like, guess what? I'm not anything like you, and they did their part in making you feel that way too, just an FYI. So anyway, and then we have this 8 of Pentacles here, and the 8 of Bats, these two 8s. So there's an issue of practicality here, I think, that there's something possibly that also adds to the block, not only just the worry about hurting someone's feelings or upsetting them, despite how upset you are. There's also this practical concern that kind of makes you a little nervous about this whole situation. So then we have the 8 of Bats down here, which speaks to this choice again. So we have this kind of track down here, which is like the effect that they've had on you. So this is like your inner spirit, and this is the effect, or them, because this is I think this is them here. So there's, this behavior change, this idea that you're not who you're supposed to be, or, you know what I mean? Like this rejection of your true self and your wildness. And then this result in suppression inside of you. And just, it's interesting with the lamb fur. It's like, it's just right over your head. All of these lambs, you got to behave a certain way. You can't get too emotional. This box, and how now it's like all this worry and concern, and they're right on top of your mind. This is the person in my mind as I look at them, and then you feel trapped. And so it's I gotta pull another card, but there is this feeling of you're trapped, but it's also the 8 of Bats, so it's like not. You could get through this mummy wrap that's on you. You know what I mean? Like there is a possibility. But I also feel like that is kind of the denial of this person as well. They're so cut off. And they would rather stay wrapped up, now that I'm thinking about it, even though I think both things are true for that card. So then you have the Ace of Swords here, which is cutting through the nonsense. If you imagine this sword cutting these ropes that are holding this sheep on your back, like cutting that away, like making the decision. And I think part of it is in the aspect where this card is you and you're stuck, this, you could get right through it with this sword. So it's about changing how you're thinking about things, and it's about changing how you're seeing things, which is very interesting. And I think you're obviously doing that work if you're watching a tarot reading called Why is This Person in My Life? I think you're, on your way to making sense of things. And that I think this power, this practical concern needs in some way to be managed, and that this sword is the thing that can do it. So it's like problem solving. It's taking out the emotions and the emotional reaction and coming to a very practical place in this decision. Don't worry about this person. Don't worry how it will affect them. Don't worry about how they're going to react. You know what I mean? And obviously keep doing what you can do to take care of yourself, simultaneously letting go of all of that. What is the best way to change this relationship without the emotions involved in that brainstorm session? So I just want to ask the cards, what, a little bit more information on this practical issue or the practical question. The mechanics of the decision, yet in a clearer way here. Okay. Oh, to politics. That is very clearly that person. Okay. Ooh, interesting. Have you considered that you don't have to explain yourself to this person? And we have this kind of fakeness coming from what I feel like is them. That even, well, I mean, and we were talking about this card earlier, perhaps one of the ways they manipulate or control you is by acting like they're helpless when in fact they aren't. So, you know, well, what are we going to do about, you know what I mean? Like just really like putting this pressure on you, and acting like, you know, they can't do things themselves, or it's just not, I don't like it. And then we have the fighting card. Which to me is like I was talking about, the energy of going at this person. I wonder if maybe you already have gotten into fights with them about things. And that's made it very difficult recently, if that's the case. Or just in your mind, it could be that you're fighting. And then we have awareness, which is interesting having it right near the World card here. So it just speaks again to that emergence of the knowledge that things have to change, that this is no longer necessary for your growth, this part of this relationship. And so in regards to the decision, I think what it's saying is to not, like when I said to forget about how they'll react and all these other things, I think paramount in that, if this is resonating with you, is to not be fooled by their helpless act, or, you know, whatever it is that they say to try to charm you, just in general. But, you know, that guilt trip, that's the word I've been looking for like 5 minutes, that guilt trip you're getting, is to take it off the table, as part of this, making this decision. Don't let that add weight to the decision. And then I think also with the fighting, I just think the fighting is another kind of, oh yeah, that's another way they keep you. In a way, they keep you engaged. They keep you focused on, you know, making everything like us or them, or you or them, you know, like this little war, so that you won't look at the bigger picture, which is like, oh, I can change this. I don't have to do this whole thing anymore. I can walk away from this little, you know, game of being someone's puppet, you know. I can just walk away. And I think they have these ways of pulling you back, and or making you not even realize you can walk away. And so taking that off the table is huge. And it takes us from awareness to silence. So these two cards come away, and what you have is the knowledge that something has to change, that they have served their purpose, at least this particular purpose in your life, which is a huge, huge purpose. And now you can respond with silence. You don't have to justify yourself to them. You don't have to explain yourself to them. When they come to you with their tricks, their little bag of tricks where they try to make you feel bad for them, try to make you feel guilty, try to get you engaged in an argument, start acting dramatically, leaving out a little trail of breadcrumbs towards, you know, this war between the two of you. You just stay silent. You don't have to respond. And that, I think, is the beginning of, or the next step, because you've already started this change. It's the next step in this change. And from there springs a decision, springs something new. Because I believe with all of this that you most likely are missing something about what you can do, how you can approach this, that there is another option in all of this. And I don't think it's time to know what that is. I think it's an experiencing thing, something that if I tell you, it's not going to be very helpful. But when you go through this, this silence and it's not letting them get to you kind of thing, and not suppressing anymore so much, you know, and even just not engaging is like a huge thing. You're going to find that new solution, that new option coming to the fore, and that maybe this issue of practicality can be resolved. But how right now, I don't think you're supposed to know. What else did I want to say, if anything? Yeah, that's the either or is a real challenge. I think it gets you mixed up because, and this is like all about that too. It's kind of like just all of these thoughts and emotions and feelings, and so much of them are the result of what you've been told and taught about yourself, about them, about being a good person. And when you take away the power of those things and you come down to the one fact, the one thought that matters, which is it's time to change this, it will open up, I think, doors for you in addition to just that silence. And it could be for some of you just having like more distance from this person. I'm just thinking about how vampires are nocturnal and people are diurnal. And so it could be that just taking time away from them and taking your moments away from them to kind of heal all this and kind of come through it a little bit more could also be very helpful. And I think this is the other thing. I think that it could be, like I said earlier, that their role in your life is now mostly complete. The formative is complete. And it could be now what your role in their life is, which is possibly to no longer, to meet them with silence, to no longer respond and react. Because I guarantee this person they're really not, they need help. But I'm like, don't say that. You don't need to help them though. That's the thing. Like, as much as like you might have a role to play in their life, but this isn't the kind of help where it's like you should feel guilty or anything, you know. And I almost wish I hadn't said it, but I'm going to say it because they are still a human being. And I know you probably know that given what we've already talked about. But at the same time, sometimes, you know, the way we love people is by leaving them, you know, and sometimes, especially in a situation like this one, the best thing you can do is to just not let them continue distracting not only you, but themselves from whatever it is underneath all these bandages that they don't want to face. That is not a journey you have to make with them. That is a journey they need to make. But your presence in their life and your becoming a lion, or admitting that you are a lion, is going to help that person. And you just need to be yourself. Like, be true to yourself, and that's going to help them. Because they've been true to themselves, obviously, and that has helped you. They'd done what they wanted to. They put themselves first, or what they thought was right first. And it made you into this wonderful, really introspective, creative person, more compassionate. I mean, they practically, it's almost the opposite, you know, a deep person and a person who is not afraid. So now it's your turn, I think, with them. Wow. That was a cool reading. I hope it was helpful. It's very deep stuff. And it's just such a, it's an amazing, I know it's extremely difficult and it feels really rotten. And the pip cards tell me so, but these major arcana cards are telling me, wow, this is going to be so good. You can do this. So that is your reading for today. I hope you found it helpful. I really enjoyed reading it. If you like the video, please like the video. And also consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to be doing regular readings, tarot deck reviews, talking about the tarot, things like that. So I'd love to have you along on this journey. And more importantly, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye. Hey, pile 2, you chose the second card in this Snowflake Obsidian. And let's get into your reading. Put this right here. Okay. So, as I mentioned in the introduction, today we are going to be asking the question, why is this person in my life? And we will see. Wow. Okay. We will see the answer. I will listen to the cards and their insistence. Okay, let's see what I'm not flipping over yet. I just flipped that one over. I'll remember that in case it feels like anything significant. Also, there's a hole in this card, which is crazy to me. I never noticed that, so that's intriguing. I don't know what implications it has for your reading. I think we want to go over here. Okay, and let's see what the Halloween Tarot has to say for you. 3. Okay. Hello, thank you. Okay, and I think it's this one. All right, and then we'll just get the reading straightened out a bit. All right, great. So let's see what your cards are. For your power animal, you have the tortoise will connect you to the love of Mother Earth. Very interesting. And then we also have this 7 of water with projections. Oh my goodness, this came up in the first reading. 15 with conditioning. And that's a major arcana card. Slowing down with the hole in it. That's a bummer. All right. So slowing down, and that is the Knight of Rainbows. Then we have suppression. Not only did I shuffle the deck, but I picked out from the middle of it. So if you were at all drawn to pile 1, it could be worth giving it a watch. Or this reading could just end up being very similar to the first one. I don't know. It's kind of crazy for these 2 cards to come up and be next to each other. And then we have awareness, which also is in the first reading. Isn't this funny? And then experiencing, which was also in the first reading. All right. That's kind of amazing. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept it. The World, also in the first reading. The 9 of Bats. Dude, I shuffled these in between the readings. I let them come out as they wanted to. Holy moly. Ace of Ghosts. I'm going to have to go back to the first reading and tell them to watch this one too, maybe. I don't know. This is amazing. And then we have the Cavalier d'Épée, which is the Knight of Swords. And I probably, said that horribly. And then the King of Wands. Well, it's not the same exact reading. So there's that. Okay, let's see. It is a different reading. It's fascinating that it has so many cards in common with it, though. It's not something. It's interesting to me. We have a wolf, lion, and a turtle. Wolf, a sheep, a lion, and a turtle. My goodness. And another turtle. Oh, the two turtles. Oh my goodness. And it's so interesting because it's like the projections where they're almost looking at each other. Huh. Interesting. Wow. This is a very strong relationship. Or there's a strong connection here, at least, even if it's not, energetically really strong. Conditioning. Gosh. So there's something about taking it slow and slowing down. What are you guys saying to each other? I don't know if you can hear it, but my upstairs neighbors just started playing music really loud, so I'm sorry if you can hear it. Hopefully you can't. Could it be that you are being asked to slow down, but you don't want to, and that's why there's a hole in this card? Or there's something imperfect here? Projections, not seeing each other clearly with the projections card, and then kind of the same idea with conditioning that this is I think it could be that you're both kind of struggling, that one of you is, you're both trying to hide how you feel in ways. You're both trying to not upset the other, or you feel this pressure to change how you behave, how you act, and you're both struggling because you don't feel like you can be honest with each other, and you don't really have a sense of who you are anymore, like who this person is to you, who you are to them. Even though there is this history here, I think, turtles are so such old, they can be so old. And I just think of that, and with the slowing down, it's like, there's this kind of change maybe in the energy. Yes. There's a change in the energy of the relationship where it's heavily tied. I feel like energetically there's a real connection there. But the shift in energy has brought some doubt, or maybe some awareness to the fore in this situation. And it's hard because again, I have to say, you're both kind of struggling with this. One, I think, more than the other. But it's interesting because the one who's struggling the most is showing it the least. They're less emotional about it, less showing of it. Let's see. But there is this, awareness that things are shifting. and I feel like you have a very hard, or there's like a call, a need to get on the ground with each other and to be in each other's presence, or to interact, like with each other energetically, like an energetic exchange. I feel like being in person or doing something together, going out together, experiencing something together is probably going to help. That this shift, instead of like letting it affect your behavior, it's affected your thinking, and it's affected how you see each other. Um, And with the Nine of Bats, I just think it's like a pretty, there's a lot of suffering here. There's a lot of suffering in private and solitude. It could be that you're the one who is more forward with their emotion, and they're much more restrained. But I'm sure you're aware of how they are too, and it's adding to this issue with the projections, where you're seeing them different than they are, and vice versa. Sometimes, in relationships, when we stop the experiencing, when we stop being in each other's presence and being honest with each other and having, fun experiences, just going out, I think of it, and it's funny, this is a 3, because I think of that as living in 3D and having a 3D life with another person, versus this flattening of the roles when we become archetypes, when we become this we kind of default into this way of being in a relationship that's very conventional and very limiting in a way. All of a sudden, instead of being this multi-dimensional person who has emotions and needs, but also is probably from these cards, like very creative, you've had a lot of fun in your life, and you're kind of, you've learned how to be flexible in the way that you can. But instead of that, it all gets flattened out into being too emotional or too whatever, or too restrained. You know what I mean? So this 2-dimensional life has crept in on you, and bringing it into 3D will help. It's interesting, because we haven't really talked about why they're in your life yet, but we will get there. I wonder what the tarot is up to. So there's this idea of completion or completeness in the World card. And to me, it's a more, in this reading, it's a more spiritual card. It's a card of, again, like the shell on the turtle, like the self-reliance that a turtle has is remarkable. It takes its home with it, right? And I feel like this is something that you have in common with this person, and you have it in common with yourself alone. And by what I mean by that is, sometimes when we have something we share with someone that we love about ourselves and we love about them, suddenly it becomes the identity of the relationship and not the individual. And in this case, remembering that you're an individual who is like this, with or without this relationship, is very important right now, or it's being drawn out. And maybe the thing is, and we'll ask, and I hope I don't forget, we will ask overall why this person's in your life. But I think right now, why you're going through this transition you're going through is to remind you of who you are as an individual, to not put so much stock in this, this long-term kind of friendship or relationship or whatever it is that you've been in, but to realize that you're separate, and that you don't have to, you can do things on your own. You can go off by yourself. You can have your own adventures, like you have your own house with you. You are the author of your sense of security. You've done it before, and you can do it again. I hope that makes sense. So it's almost like this phase is more about a redirect in getting you to be more independent, or to see yourself as more independent. And that's kind of why this is happening right now for you. It doesn't say anything about the other person. And the love of Mother Earth is, when we experience the love of Mother Earth, I think that's a very personal experience, that it is the kind of love that doesn't go anywhere, that's solid, that's unquestionable. And I think that is what we're talking about when we talk about the World card here, when we talk about your individuality, your personal flexibility, your personal sense of security, the work you've done to earn that. I think that is from Mother Earth. That is the result of your relationship to Mother Earth. So reconnecting to that love apart from this person is what it's all about right now. And I think that in conjunction with that, there's this other, it's like there's something else, because there's something else that you need. And it's something personal. It's like a creative endeavor, or, there's something you need to do that is like, doesn't involve this other person. And so this phase, again, not only is it showing you or bringing you back to yourself, but it's to make room for this part of yourself to come to the light. And I imagine with the awareness card, it's something you might already even know about, whether it's, and it feels like a creative thing to me, but it might not be, but it definitely has to do with emotions. But I think of, writing, or writing poetry, something a little more emotionally driven. So being an artist, or going out and meeting other people, joining groups. If this person, this is just an example, I don't see this in the cards, but say that they don't like going out and hanging out with people, and you do. And so the thing to do is to, love yourself and get back in touch with this old you that was independent of this, and go and hang out with people that you want to hang out with, that you like. Go out and do the things you want to do. Don't keep waiting, because you might be waiting a while, and the energy slowing down here, speeding up down here with the Knight of Swords, a very speedy card. We have this like kind of split in things, like and it's happening there is this reason, to build this part of you. And so with the Knight of Swords, it's just, there's a real fastness to this, which might be jarring at first. But it also, it's fast. And maybe the reason it's fast is because when you do this situation changes really quickly. Because if you look I just think of the sword, and both of these cards are wrapped in ropes and tied up in ropes. And it's like that, maybe like right away, this situation changes. You guys don't feel as trapped. There's not as much pressure. And you can go out and experience things together, and be close, and be the turtle part of yourself that you are with them, but also stay separate, And so I feel like it could be the results of that. Doing that could be really quick, and it could really impact this situation. With the King of Wands, I think that this, I think that this is possibly about the other person needing space. And that this gives them the space that they need. It's not, and that the thing is to know if they do need space, if that has come up, or they want to hang out less, or whatever it is, it's because of this pressure, because of the projection, the two-dimensionalizing of the relationship, where you've become possibly the needy one, or the emotional one, or the cold one, or whatever, you know what I mean? With that flattening, where you've become the blank one and they've become the other blank one. And so this brings back the 3 dimensions to your life. And this is kind of what that person needs. And so I think it will relieve the pressure over here and help things to stop being so stuck as well. Because the slowing down, the shifting is meant to speed things up in a way, because it's meant for this to happen, which is a very fast energy, and then things balance out. I can almost feel it energy wise, you know, like this is where the energies start mingling together. So it would be around experiencing a 9 of bats. But the speed from this part just goes over into this until all of the energy is at the same level. All right, so I just want to ask, like, in the grand scheme of things, is there anything we should know about why this person is in your life? So in the grand scheme of things, here we go. I knew that card was coming out. Is anybody surprised by that? Because I wasn't. Okay. I think, you know, I think that there's a meant to be, you're like meant to be in each other's energy. You're meant to be a part of each other's lives with the Lovers card. You know, I got that sense when I felt the connection between these two turtles. Also, I think this person, either for you or for them, and so I don't want to pin on one of you. Maybe both of you do this for each other, but you've kind of taught each other how to be independent like this. You know, there's this rebellious nature I think you both share, but you both kind of led each other in a way in that rebelliousness, which is really interesting. So the individuality that you have is kind of the result of this relationship, but not exactly, because it was already in you. And I think that it is the getting out of your mind is really important. I think that for the relationship itself, that's part of what makes it work, is that this emphasis on experiencing that you probably once had. And so the actual overall kind of point of the relationship is to get out of your mind and to be in your heart space, you know, to be in a more grounded place. You know, the rebel, it's the, you know, the emperor in the traditional deck, it's the emperor. He's so grounded. He's very able to manage things. You know, he's very in his body. And so to me, you know, it's about, this relationship is about getting out of your mind. And so when you are both in your minds, like you are right now, things start to fall apart, because it only works kind of if you're experiencing and kind of adventuring together. And if this person isn't up for doing that right now, you do by yourself, because that's always the point, no matter what's happening right now. So following that, I think, is going to help a lot. Wow. This is a crazy reading, and I really thought when all of those cards came out from the first reading, I was like, oh my gosh, am I just reading for the same person? I don't think I was, though, so that's good, even though some of you might also have watched this too from the first pile. But anyway, so I hope that was helpful. It's really interesting. I love this vibe going on here, and I do feel like this can pass, or something is going to shift, and it's going to be, in the long run, extremely positive for you. And there's some new growth that's, you know, with the Ace of Ghosts and the awareness coming up, pushing up out of the soil, this growth from this difficulty of the situation, in part, and also just because you're you. So thank you so much for watching. I do hope this was helpful. If you liked the video, please like the video. I just started saying that a lot, and I didn't mean to, but it might become a habit. I hope it doesn't. Anyway, so thank you for watching. Please like the video. If you like content like this, and listening to me struggle with my words, please subscribe to the channel. I'll be doing tarot readings, deck reviews, talking about tarot, things like that. I'm also very open to any kind of feedback or requests for things to talk about on the channel. So feel free to leave any comments in that regard. And more important than all of those things, have a wonderful day, and thank you for watching. Bye. Hi, pile 3. You chose the third card and this lovely amethyst. Let's see what you get for cards today. So again, as I explained in the intro, this is a reading asking, why is this person in my life? So far, the first two readings have been incredibly interesting, and I'm very curious to see what this next reading is about. All right. I think one more of this. And then from the Halloween deck. Oh, you want to come out. Thank you. Thank you. It's this one. Okay. Thank you. All right. And I'll fix the cards in a minute because I know they aren't all really great on the screen right now. But you got two more cards to go. Oh, three, I guess. We'll make room for that in a minute. All right. So let me just fix us up here. My upstairs neighbor is playing music very loudly this afternoon, so I apologize if you can hear it. I can only make out the bass line, so I hope if you can hear it and you know what the song is, I hope you like it. Okay, anyway. Ooh, tricky to make room for this guy. I'm just going to pop him right like that, and we'll see what happens. All right, so let's see what cards you have to answer this question. The crow will connect you to the laws of nature. Whoa, that's an interesting. The laws of nature. Well, I'm just very intrigued by that. We have inner voice. A beautiful card. We have past lives. I was wondering if that card would come up in these readings because I do feel like, you know, for those of us who believe in past lives, there is this real thrust from the past that can enter into these very charged relationships. And then we have courage. So three major arcana cards coming from the Osho Zen deck. Very interesting. Let's see what the Halloween Tarot says. We have the Nine of Pumpkins, the Lovers, that came up in pile one, the Two of Ghosts, which is also the Two of Cups, the Empress, lots of major arcana here. Queen of Pumpkins, also in the first reading. There's a lot of energy from that first reading. The Tower. I love this particular tarot card. Tower card, I like. All right, let's see what else we have. We have the Eight of Wands, the Ace of Swords, and the Eight of Pentacles. Also a card from the first reading. There was so many cards in the second reading from the first reading as well that I almost panicked, but everything was fine. All right, so let's see what's going on here with this kind of really connected in this way relationship. What are the laws of nature that you're learning? I like that better. Okay. What are the laws of nature? Courage certainly could be considered a law of nature, and instincts, right? So, because you have to be courageous in nature if you want to survive. And you also need to follow your instincts and go with your gut in nature if you want to survive. So it's interesting because we've already said the word survive a few times. There's an element of some survival, what's the word? It's survival techniques. It's not quite right. If I can think of it, I'll let you know. But it's these skills of surviving, of yeah, survival skills, I guess, developing survival skills. Because that's really a part of, when we talk about nature, there's a lot of different aspects of nature, but one of the biggest ones that I think a lot of people discuss is, you know, this idea of survival of the fittest, right? Or of how it's just about survival in nature, like you eat or get eaten. And I know this isn't across the board, but that's kind of the feeling I'm getting in a way for this reading. Now, there are other laws of nature too, like abundance and, you know, like biodiversity and how important that is. And so having a lot of variety in the world of plants and animals and all this stuff. And there is a balance also in nature that I really feel like that's a big law of nature. But what we usually go to is this kind of more stark version of nature where it's like very, you know, kind of selfish, but selfish because you're trying to survive. So it interests me that the first thing that comes out is if, you know, the first thing that you learn from this relationship is kind of how to make it through a relationship like that, or a situation like what this relationship put you into. And then from there, these other things develop that aren't quite as like dire, you know what I mean? These other things come to the surface that aren't as associated with kind of like a trauma, you know what I mean? And with the Nine of Pumpkins, we do see, you know, some abundance being reflected here. The Queen of Pumpkins. Is it that in a past life, does it just feel like a past life that this happened in, I wonder? Or is it in fact a past life? I think that depends on your experience. But I do think, you know, there's this new phase coming. With the Lovers and the Two of Ghosts. This attraction, this like, it's interesting. I feel like there's this element of they hurt you, you know, in a way, and you had to develop this in this certain way, but now they're back. And so it could be that this happened like in a literal past life and now they're back, or it could be that, you know, this happened a while ago and now they're back into your life. And it's almost like you picked up right where you left off, you know, this intimacy, this kind of joy at being with each other. But it's hard because there is a trust issue happening here. There is definitely an issue of not really trusting this person, and that you really like the way you are, that, you know, you've moved past this phase, but it's kind of triggering that again. And it's hard because this phase, there were gifts that came from it, and this feeling of you know, this independence that I believe you cultivated as a result of it, and this inner voice, right? Like this very intuitive, wise self that kind of developed as a result of whatever this hurt was. And now this person, and it could even be a different person, but I don't know. So it could be that if this person isn't in your life anymore, they're still impacting you in this new relationship is another possibility here. So I mean, if that's the case, I think the reason though is to develop this courage and this inner voice, so that you could be at this place that's comfortable, and also maybe not trust someone completely. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's part of it. Maybe this new relationship is a reason to be a little wary, since this is a vampire in this card, and they seem like they have very bad boundaries. And did they even wait to be let in? Because she seems very surprised and nervous that this person is coming into their house. And usually vampires have to be invited in. So have you invited this person into your heart? You know what I mean? Or are they barging in on it? And I think that's something that instinct you have, or that concern, comes from a very honest place and a place of experience. So not underestimating that reaction, I think, is very important. And you know, if this person is smooth talking, or you know, like wants to talk you into things, coerce you into things, I think that's a real sign of needing to tap into that courage and that inner voice, and know, you know, do I want to sacrifice some of this, or you know, this comfort that I have cultivated on my own? Do I want to change the balance in my life for this other person with what I know about them, or with the little that I know about them, depending? Just their behavior is, I don't think you know them well, but I think their behavior possibly says a lot. And so in going with this Nine of Pumpkins, I mean, we have the Empress here, who is a very powerful person. And I think this, again, this card is coming from this relationship, this difficult situation, this situation that, you know, you were forced to go out on your own, or to be bold. You were made to do that in order to survive, you know, and you developed this inner voice and this kind of like wisdom and this self-reliance, and especially when it comes to your wisdom, I believe. And so this comes the Empress, right? Then the Empress comes onto the scene, the person you develop into, who is someone who is very good at meeting their own needs, who is comfortable in their lives, and who knows exactly what they need to do to make themselves comfortable, who doesn't really need an emperor to make them an empress, if you know what I mean. And with how these are lined up, I mean, I don't know if this person knows you're an empress, you know? And I think that's a question worth asking. Because when people don't treat you like the empress you are, sometimes you can believe that you're not an empress. And I don't want you to walk away from that knowledge and that lesson. I really don't. I guess I'm personally invested a little bit for this one. But, you know, you should be treated as an empress. And I know, and it doesn't mean not being flexible. I mean, the other thing about the empress is she's compassionate and she's giving and she's creative, but she's also like very well-rounded and someone that you respect. You know what I mean? There's a reverence about the empress. And this person might see you as the Queen of Pumpkins, which is not the same as the Empress, or you might feel like the Queen of Pumpkins with this person, which to me speaks to kind of your role being limited to someone who is just generous or practical, someone who can make a place beautiful or adds their own little touches to things, attention to detail, which are all great things. And at the same time, they are limiting when you have all this other stuff. So the Empress is like the ruler of all the suits. And so you have water and, you know, well, the cups, the pentacles, which is here, but also you have wands and the swords. You know, there's thinking and there's passion and there's emotion. And those things are also very important to you. And so being aware of that reduction, I think, is very important. This could also be related to a job, I feel like, too. Not just, I think it goes to like personal relationships, but it could also be professional relationships. So that's something just to think of when I'm thinking about, like, having a very narrow role at a job when really you should be a manager, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. Just throwing that out there. So then we come over into this Tower card, which is very interesting. Why is this here? What is it telling us? There are like a lot of answers I could give you for this card that are just like pat answers or rote answers. That's like, well, this is what this means. But I really feel like I don't want to do that. Because it's important to really get a feel for this. And the other cards, I feel like I have done that for. Also, just look at it looks like the Bride of Frankenstein's little lines on her head. So give me a couple minutes with this card. All right, I'm going to read these ones and come back to this one. Okay, so we have the Eight of Wands, so things happening quickly, which is maybe diving into this relationship very quickly, which is also potential red flaggy there. Just throwing it out there. And there is this Ace of Swords. Yeah, I like that better. Oh, and these are both eights. So passion versus practicality, right? So there's this passion, this speed in this situation. If it's a relationship, you're jumping in with both feet. If it's a job, you're like, getting so invested in it, and this is, you can get carried away in it, in the excitement and joy of it. Conversely, there is this practical side of things, also. So the practical side is more, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not be carried away with the excitement of these things, the excitement of it and the courage, that it would take to do all this again or with someone else. Whereas on the bottom, it's, like it's a cool vibe. It's not this warmth. There's not as much passion. There's a lot of, kind of practicality in all of this. So I want to kind of just honor that, as I'm reading it and getting lost in the idea of the vampire and, protecting yourself and everything and needing to be treated like an empress. But at the same time, I see in the cards right now, like the kind of loneliness of that and the fact that it's not as exciting as this, which is a real challenge. All right. So let's see. I'm going to ask what the Tower has to do with this. And I feel like I'm going to use this deck. Okay. So what is, oh boy, okay. What is the Tower telling us? Yeah. Hmm. So the Tower is talking about this suppression and rebirth. And how beautiful is that? The two tens next to each other, the 10 of fire or wands and the 10 of clouds or swords. And so there is this, with the Tower card, there's this kind of destruction of foundational things. Some things are being broken down. It's not a painful experience because simultaneously there's this rebirth. So it could be that this relationship is kind of taking down some of the aspects or beliefs that you've had, and building up possibilities. You know what I mean? This rebirth, and that letting go of the 8 again. Jeez, this is a real pickle. That letting go is kind of allowing this process to happen. I feel like allowing things to be torn down and rebirth to happen. So there is like a sense of renewal from all of this. So I need more clarification on things. So this is such a tricky, it's hard because I feel like this is a very difficult situation, and I am almost going on the journey with you of like being skeptical and then feeling like, well, what do I have to lose? I feel low, you know what I mean? Like this real journey of uncertainty and of really wanting to be swept away, but also seeing that this person isn't perfect or they're rushing into things. And that makes you uncomfortable. So I want to ask, and it could be that the point of them in your life, and if it's the same person or not, is to give you hope, and to break down some of the barriers that you have up, but that doesn't mean the same thing as, staying swept away by them or having to give all of yourself up to them and let go of your own, inner guidance. So tell me, what's the question I want to ask? Tell me, how is this person, no. How is this person, or how is this relationship helping to bring about rebirth? Is it safe, I guess, which is kind of a loaded question, and, but I'm going to go with it. Okay. Let's see what we have here. Trust. Wow. Abundance. Trust, abundance, and change. My thing is not knowing what to do with that. Okay, well, so I think that this feels to me like this person, whether they're the old person or the new person or both, is here now to help you with the process of taking down these limited beliefs and these things and building things back up. However, at the same time, I think that there is an element of this that is kind of like not taking the relationship itself too seriously, if that's possible, and just looking at it from a view of, this relationship is about building myself back up in a way that I like. You know what I mean? Like as long as you keep your idea of yourself and all that you have to offer intact, and you keep these, positives that came out of this lesson from earlier intact, I think you can manage this. I think it takes, though, listening to your inner voice and trusting yourself in this situation, that this is a very appealing thing, obviously very attractive. At the same time, the purpose of it, I think, is to open your eyes to a larger world and to more possibility in the world, and that this relationship may not be an everlasting relationship, that it is not perfect, and it probably isn't forever. However, the impact that it will have on you is lasting and positive, I think, when approached in the right way, which is to help you to see yourself, I think, in a new light. Because even though we have the Empress here, and I see your, you have figured out so much, and you have so much to draw upon. There is a doubt there, and there is a lack of vibrancy that I think you really need to get back in touch with. And that's what this is about. And that this change is your change. It's not it's like, I don't know, it's like when I've had relationships in the past, I had friends or boyfriends that loved a certain kind of music, and I'd never heard it before. And then I fell in love with the music, and now, 30 years later, I'm still listening to that song that we loved so much, that kind of change is what I'm talking about. It's like a change for you. It's an opening of your world so that you can bring this forward with you, the positives from it. And that's one of the keys, I think, is to focus on taking out those positives. So there is a little bit of letting down your guard here. And there's also a little bit of, not completely forgetting yourself and getting completely sucked away in it. And trusting yourself, trusting the process of this thing. I think that's where we're at right now, and that you're going to learn a lot. You're coming to a phase of learning a lot, and it's going to be because of this person that you'll learn a lot. And it's very positive. I think there is a need to let go of being so practical. Though I am hesitant about the speed of all this, but who am I to say? I don't know why I even said that, but I am. I guess that's why. I think that's my natural inclination, though, is to be wary of that. However, it could be that this is, one of those moments where it just happens really fast. I don't know. But what I do know is if you can manage to keep the lessons from before and know that this may not be forever, and that it's about opening your world up more than anything else, I think it's going to be remarkable. And I think that this is a karmic relationship, and that the scales are coming back into balance because of this new time, this new relationship, even if it's, someone from the past too. Very interesting. Wow. So I hope this was helpful. I feel like it was a weird journey, but I'm going to accept that and invite you to consider your own journey with this situation and see how they line up. This is, not everything is going to be right on, but it's very interesting to observe your reaction to these things, because that can often be a clue to where the work of the tower needs to happen. Whew. All right, well, this was your reading for today. I hope it was helpful. If you liked watching this, if you enjoyed the reading, please like the video. And if you like content like this, please consider subscribing. I'll be posting new stuff all the time, a lot of readings, some deck reviews, maybe talking about the tarot and generally, if that's of interest. Feel free to leave any a suggestion in the comments. I'm very open to suggestions right now. So please feel free to do that. And more importantly than all of that, have a wonderful day. And thanks again so much for watching. Bye.